Welcome back. Randy Block showed a graphic during the convention that demonstrated that the beef industry is increasing its price by 8% a year, and we are increasing price much faster than chicken and pork. How do we become more efficient and price competitive in this very competitive marketplace so that we don't lose share to chicken and pork?
Well, you know, we've got to focus on things that we can control. Okay. You know, the way that we raise the cattle, there's a number of things that we could do more efficiently than we do today. Okay. Part of that solution, we feel, is to be better coordinated. Wow. You know, so from an animal health perspective, we don't need to be giving vaccines at the ranch level and then re-giving them when they arrive to the feed yard. And then, you know, there's a way that we can be more efficient and really focus on that animal's care and health more than we are today. I think genetics, you've mentioned that here. I think there's still a lot of room for improvement as a feeder. Sure. To produce a more consistent animal. When we get cattle, we've got a huge variation. And actually, we did a little study where we looked at a set of cattle that we fed, 250 cattle, and we looked at the difference in carcass value at the packing plant. Okay. And these were just regular cattle, nothing special. No, there wasn't a science or study or anything. And there was over $600 difference in 200 cattle. You know, from those that would be, and there's weight in there, you know, that's part of the factor, quality's part of the factor. So it's an extreme statement, but we can do a better job producing a more consistent product. We get that done, now there's more efficiencies in the entire system because the end user wants a more consistent product. The consumer wants a more consistent product, and all those sorts of things. If we work a little closer together, I think there's a lot of opportunity for us to even do better than we're doing today. Clint,
you sell a lot of cattle in a year. What are the things producers can do at the cow, calf, and stocker level to add more value to those cattle?
Well, the first step, and John made a good point, we have to manage what we can control. The first step is buying a more consistent package from a genetic standpoint. I'm going to be honest, with the technologies we have today, you can buy herd sires to help minimize those differences and variation. Because here's the tricky thing, we talk about efficiencies and cow herd size. The efficient cow in Arizona is not the same efficient cow in Iowa, because the environments are so much different. They have different engines, different fuel requirements, and depending on where that cow is, that cow that was extremely efficient in Arizona can't produce enough product in Iowa to keep up with that cow. And if you move that cow from Iowa to Arizona, she's probably not going to breed back. So there's not only do we have that environmental effect that all of us are a little different in, the perfect definition of moderation is different, but then here's the complicated part. What's the most efficient on the ranch level may not be the most efficient in John's feed yard, or may not be the most, may not deliver us the exact highest optimum product on the rail when we hang it. So walking that balance between those two is what's most difficult for a cow-calf guy. The one thing that I teach my guys or work with my producers on, and they've taught me this most of my life, but if we can balance the maternal efficiencies on our ranch, don't think about it on every ranch. Think about it on our ranch, you know, the specific place you're at. But always keep in mind about driving value to that carcass and trying to make sure that the person that buys our product, he captures value all the way down the chain. And the biggest mindset that I tell my guys is we're not selling calves. We're selling beef. Don't forget, we're selling beef. That's what we're here for.
You know, and one of the things that is a challenge, I think, in this environment is we're trying to do it efficiently, we're trying to do it cost effectively, and yet at the same time, we're having some tools and technologies that are being limited in terms of how we use them. I want to talk about the thorny issue of antibiotics. Obviously, you know some of the changes that have been made at FDA relative to antibiotic use and where we're headed in the next year. Tell us what you're doing differently in your operation, Don, or what you anticipate the challenges to be relative to some of these antibiotics moving towards VFD products.
Mm-hmm. You know, I can address a challenge first. It's our area, our pastures are pretty rough country. If it's not being farmed, it's for a reason. And so those cows can experience some foot issues. And we can try as hard as we may to have the best terrain for them to travel with what we have to work with, but foot rot can happen. And the easiest way up to now has been to treat through their mineral. You know, a great end product like Clint talks about, you have a lot of good nutrition going on, and minerals part of that. So everybody's going to the mineral tub. That's not going to be the easiest option anymore, or an acceptable option anymore. So we've already been visiting with our veterinarian. What is going to be the best choice? What do you think you will be prescribing, or what probiotic or other options are there to make sure that their feet are even healthier and not so sensitive to rocks and sticks and things that are out there. So that's one immediate example in particular as we start practicing this summer to be ready for that. And from there on, you know, we all should have good vet-client relationships anyway. We should have a set protocol that we're comfortable with visiting with each other about. Should cattle get sick? Should we have an outbreak of a respiratory disease, whatever the case is? And so, you know, if we're not documenting that already, I don't care if someone has 10 cows or 10,000 cows. It's not hard to put that down in a book, you know, or your laptop or your phone or whatever you're using. So good documentation is going to be good practice for all of us.
Kevin, NCBA or beef industry came under fire with consumer reports relative on the whole antibiotic issue. What guidance would you give other producers about how we can ensure that we're being good stewards of that technology?
Well, awareness is number one. Being in California, not only what we have on the national level, but California already has gone down the road of being more restrictive, and we have current restrictions and future restrictions on the books that we're going to be required to follow here in the next 2 years. And so any time for any antibiotic in a bovine in California, we're going to have a pre-existing relationship with a veterinarian and have some other changes in what we used to do. So what starts in California generally when it comes to environmental and these kind of regulatory issues travels across to everybody else. So I'd like to give everybody a heads up from a consumer perspective. These issues will keep coming to the forefront. And so what we have here, I anticipate in the not too distant future, we're all going to have to adjust and create relationships to manage what we're going to be required to do. And some of it is just good common sense, which maybe we should be doing anyway.
Yeah, good perspective. We'll have more insights from our panel of beef cattle experts right after this. Stay with us.